Hello, Kevin. How are you?
Fine. Good afternoon, Sarah. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. Right. Today we're going to touch on a subject that's a question that comes up quite often. Anxiety, panic, can they send you crazy? Can they send you mad? Can they make you insane?
Okay. This is one of the commonest core fears that people have, particularly with panic attacks.
Mhm.
And I would say, I wouldn't be exaggerating by saying that I've actually heard this thousands of times.
Mm.
By thousands of times, I mean a couple of thousand times, probably in my career. It's a very, very common fear.
Mm.
Now, I think first of all, it's really important um, to explore what people mean when they say, "Am I going crazy? Am I going mad?" Once you start to drill down and ask people questions, you get different answers. So sometimes people say, "I fear I'm going to lose control."
Yeah.
Sometimes people say, "I feel so unreal. I really think that I'm apart from the world." Sometimes people say, perhaps I'm getting schizophrenia. Sometimes people say a mixture of all those things. Unreality is a very, very common symptom that people feel. Um, and sometimes, because panic sometimes comes out of the blue, and it's the first time anybody has ever experienced, the person has ever experienced this. It's just such an abnormal experience to feel as you do. You can't describe it.
Mm.
Now, I suppose the first thing I always say to people is, look, this is common. This isn't very reassuring to you at the moment, but it is common. And I think the important thing is to help the person get an understanding of panic
Mhm.
and to get an understanding of the reasons why this isn't craziness or going mad.
Mhm.
People very often have a fear that they're going to be sectioned, taken into hospital. Well, you don't get taken into hospital um, suffering from a panic attack. That just doesn't happen.
Mm.
But let's just step back and look at some of the reasons why people think they're going mad.
Mhm.
Um, Unreality is one of the feelings that cause them to think they're going mad. Either the world is unreal, they're unreal, or a mixture of the two things.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll see it called depersonalisation or derealisation.
Yeah.
People will go to the internet and they'll find these phrases. Well, it means that you just feel yourself or the world are unreal or a mixture of those things. So to some people, that is very, very alarming.
Mhm.
Now, the feeling of unreality is really probably caused by mostly by the what happens to you physically during a panic attack. So your breathing gets rapid and you breathe in excess of bodily requirements, and that changes the chemistry
Mm.
of the blood. And therefore, it will change the chemistry of the nervous system as well. So one's vision often gets impaired to the extent that everything looks a bit strange. Sometimes you lose focus.
Mm.
And this is a horrifying thing for people to experience.
Mm. Mm.
So sometimes that makes them think, I've never felt this before. Perhaps I'm going mad.
Mm.
One of the other things which is really linked to the fear of going mad is to the fear of losing control. Now, the fear of losing control comes because during a panic attack, you go into this state of extreme fight or flight. So you become very, very tense. And it's almost as if you're waiting for your body to take off and do something, like to run or to people say, I fear I was on a tube train and this happened to me. And I thought I was going to start running up and down. And then people, because they're anxious, start to think of the worst things that could happen. Perhaps I'm going to start hitting people. Perhaps I'm going to rip my clothes off because I'm feeling hot and I don't know what to do.
Mm.
So perhaps I'm going to attack someone. So all those thoughts are in one's mind. That never happens. That never happens.
Mm.
But that's inside the person's head. That's about to happen.
Mhm.
So all those things connected sum up to a lot of people as I'm going mad. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's a mixture of all of those things. So I think sufferers will appreciate this, but if you can imagine all at one time, you're feeling strange and unreal, your muscles are tense, you feel you're going to start running, you feel you're going to tear your clothes off, you're going to do something horrible.
Mm-hmm.
You put those things together, you make 2 and 2, you make 222. You're going to go mad. And then the consequence of that is you're going to get sectioned, you're going to take it into hospital. The police are going to come and arrest you.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're going to take you to a psychiatrist. There's a whole range of things that people fear. So understanding, and I think for each individual, the experience is different. So I'm sure at No Panic, when you get a telephone call and you speak to someone, it's very important to try and get an understanding of the individual experience, because you can talk them through the reasons. And actually, human beings are such that when we have reasons which we understand, it does make things feel better. So that's one thing. And of course, as a consequence of understanding, that's just the beginning of the journey. And I think we've talked about this before, and I'm sure we'll talk about it again. There are things that you can do to modify the panic. You can do breathing exercises, mindfulness. There's a whole range of things. Just talk to people sometimes, because panic doesn't always come and stay with you. It's a very transient disorder. So when when I'm faced with somebody, I sometimes I give all those explanations, and they say, well, what is madness then? If I'm not going mad, what's madness? So my starting point is that anxiety, even the worst anxiety, is entirely different from what the average person would call madness. Now, actually, what psychiatrists will call madness really boils down to a couple of things. One is a psychotic illness, which is an illness such as schizophrenia. It's an illness such as an extreme of moods, from very high moods to very low moods, so-called bipolar disorder. But in those conditions, you really are out of touch with reality. You might hear voices, you might believe things that are just can't be logically proved or disproved in your own mind. You might believe that you're a very important person. You might believe you're the worst person in the world. There are all kinds of delusions. And these illnesses start gradually. They don't suddenly hit you while you're traveling into work on a train. These illnesses start gradually. The other important thing to add is that some people say, well, I'm having panic now. Will it develop into schizophrenia or bipolar disorder? But the answer to that is no, because we know quite a lot now about the causation of schizophrenia and bipolar disorder because of the massive work that's been done on genome studies and imaging the brain. Now, where these abnormal experiences like delusions and hallucinations take place is an entirely different area to the brain to where anxiety and panic arise. And actually, there are lots and lots of studies which have looked at the way the brain reacts to a panic attack. And you can actually see, that some people are more sensitive to anxiety, and you can see the blood going round in particular ways. It's an entirely different area of the brain. So one part of the brain can't catch something that's going on in another part of the brain, if you see what I mean. So bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, which often get mixed up a bit anyway, that's an entirely different condition. They tend to come on gradually. You get lots and lots of signs. And any mental health professional, or indeed, any reasonable GP, would know immediately the difference between a panic attack and a psychosis. So if you feel that you need to go to the doctor, you need to get checked out, because one of the things about panic, of course, you think you might be dying, but you might arrive at a GP. Well, you could be reassured that GPs in their basic training learn to distinguish between panic and psychosis, madness, if you like. So that's a potted answer.
But I
It's a
suppose,
relatively long answer, but
but
it's a
it
potted
is. But
answer.
at the end of the day, I guess we can safely say then that, you know, if you're having anxiety, you're experiencing panic attacks, we can safely say that these people are not going mad. They're not developing schizophrenia. They're not
Yes,
developing bipolar. They've got anxiety, which is a completely different kettle of fish.
it is. It is indeed.
Yep. Okay. I think that's going to put a lot of people's minds at rest.
Yes. Well, I think the one thing to say, Sarah, is that probably at No Panic, all the support workers, helpliners, and everybody else who receives messages will be getting messages like this very frequently.
Yeah.
And I would just urge anybody with those symptoms to please contact No Panic. Don't be ashamed, because sometimes people think, I've got these symptoms, I'm going to keep them to myself because they're so awful. I
Mhm.
don't want people to think I'm mad. Well, reach out, get some help. There are lots of resources for panic, all on this wonderful website.
Absolutely. And the reason to reach out is because so many people are, we're so busy at No Panic with messages, with phone calls, etc. So there's the proof that you're not alone. There's many people reaching out. And we do have over on our website a piece on Unreality, on depersonalisation, on in our resources section, so people can take a look at that. They can also get in touch with us by our helpline, which is 0300 772 9844. Email me, sarah@nopanic.org.uk, and don't forget to subscribe to these videos, because they're a regular source now. So if you'd like to subscribe, you can do that, and you'll get a notification then when a new one comes up. Thank you very much, Kevin, and we'll be speaking again very soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye for now, Sarah. Bye.